Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudev Srila Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Srila Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Srila Gurudev Jaya Gurudev Srila Gurudev Jai Om Vishnupad Parahams Parivrajacharya Astrodasar Srimad Srila Abhayanath Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Kodi Vaishnavrind Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Shrimad Jayapataka Swami Nityanamane Mochari Padayataka Babadayane Gaura Gatadhamadayane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pracharya Deshitarine. Hare Krishna, today we are reading from Canto 2 entitled The Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 10, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Text 45. We'll all do Mangal Charan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mangsha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevayat Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki. Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. I actually forgot to wear a mask. Text 45. Nasya karmani janmadau parasyanu vidhiyate kartritva pratisedhartham mayayaropitam hitat. Nasya karmani janmadau parasyanu vidhiyate kartritva pratisedhartham mayayaropitam hitat. Nasya karmani janmado parasyanu vidhiyate kartritva. I'm so sorry, I completely forgot. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Prabhu. Now we are okay. We go up now. Kartritva pratisedartham mayaya ropitam hitat. Nasya karmani janmado parasyanu vidhiyate kartritva pratisedhartham mayaya ropitam hitat. Word for word, na, never, asya, of the creation, karmani, in the matter of, janmado, creation and destruction, parasya, of the supreme, anuvidhiyate, it is so described, kartritva, engineering, pratisedhartham, counteract, mayaya, by the external energy, aropitam, is manifested, he, for, tat, the creator. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Chanavrin Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. what is described in the Veda about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. Purport. The Vedic direction for the creation, maintenance and destruction of the material world is this: Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yad prayantya abhisamvishanti, i.e., everything is created by Brahman. After creation, everything is maintained by Brahman. And after annihilation, everything is conserved in Brahman. Cross-materialists, without any knowledge of Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan, conclude material nature to be the ultimate cause of the material manifestation. And the modern scientist also shares the view that the material nature is the ultimate cause of all manifestations of the material world. This view is refuted by all Vedic literatures. The Vedanta philosophy mentions that Brahman is the fountainhead of all creation, maintenance and destruction. And Srimad Bhagavatam, the natural commentary on the Vedanta philosophy, says Janmadiyasya yaton vayad itaratas charteshva adigna swarat, etc. Inert matter is undoubtedly energy with potential to interact, but it has no initiative of its own. Srimad Bhagavatam therefore comments on the aphorism Janmadiyasya by saying Abhignad and Swarat, i.e. the Supreme Brahman is not inert matter, but he is the Supreme Consciousness and is independent. Therefore, inert matter cannot be the ultimate cause of creation, maintenance and destruction of the material world. Superficially, material nature appears to be the cause of creation, maintenance and destruction. But material nature is set into motion for creation by the Supreme Conscious Being, the personality of Godhead. He is the background of all creation, maintenance and destruction. And this is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Konteya Jagad Viparivartate. The material nature is one of the energies of the Lord, and she can work under the direction of the Lord, Adhyakshena. When the Lord throws his transcendental glance over the material nature, then only can the material nature act, as a father contacts the mother, who is then able to conceive a child. Although it appears to the layman that the mother gives birth to the child, the experienced man knows that the father gives birth to the child. Material nature therefore produces the moving and standing manifestations of the material world after being contacted by the Supreme Father and not independently. Considering material nature to be the cause of creation, maintenance, etc., is called the logic of nipples on the neck of a goat. The Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krsna Dasa Kaviraj Goswami describes this logic of Ajagala Stana Nyaya as follows, as explained by His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. The material nature, as the material cause, is known as Pradhana, and as efficient cause is known as Maya. But since it is inert, it is not the remote cause of creation. Kaviraj Goswami states as follows, Ateva Krishna Mula Jagat Karana Prakirtir Karana Yaiche Ajagalastana. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 5.61. Because I always get this one wrong. Because Karanar Nava Yasi, Vishnu, is the plenary expansion of Krishna, it is he who electrifies the matter to put it in motion. The examples of electrification is quite appropriate. A piece of iron is certainly not fire, but when iron is made red hot, certainly it has the qualities of fire through its burning capacity. Matter is compared to the piece of iron, and it is electrified or made red hot by the glance of manipulation of the Supreme Consciousness of Vishnu. Only by such electrifications is the energy of matter displayed in various actions and reactions. Therefore, the inert matter is neither efficient nor the material cause of the cosmic manifestation. Sri Kapiladev has said, Yatol mukhad vishpulingad tumad vapi swasambhavad apyatmatvena bhimatad Yathagne Prithag Ulmukat. Bhagavatam 3:28-40. The original fire, its flame, its spark, and its smoke are all one. For fire is still fire, yet is different from the flame. Flame is different from sparks, and sparks are different from smoke. In every one of them, namely in the flames, in the sparks, and in the smoke, the integrity of fire is present, yet all of them are differently situated with different positions. The cosmic manifestation is compared to the smoke, because when smoke passes over sky, so many forms appear, resembling many known and unknown manifestations. The sparks are compared to living entities, and the flames are compared to material nature, pradhana. One must know that each and every one of them is effective simply because of being empowered by the qualities of the original fire. Therefore, all of them, namely the material nature, the cosmic manifestation, and the living entities, are but different energies of the Lord, fire. Therefore, those who accept the material nature as the cosmic manifestation's original cause, Prakriti, the cause of creation, according to Sankhya philosophy, are not correct in their conclusion. The material nature has no separate existence without the Lord. Therefore, setting aside the Supreme Lord as the cause of all causes is the logic of Ajagala Sthana Nyaya, or trying to milk the nipples on the neck of a goat. The nipples on the neck of a goat may seem like the source of milk, but to try to get milk from such nipples will be foolish. Jai. So we'll read the translation again. There is no direct engineering by the Lord for the creation and destruction of the material world. What is described in the Vedas about his direct interference is simply to counteract the idea that material nature is the creator. So here we see this Nasya Karmani Janmado. So this aspect of when we are seeing creation and destruction, we are not able to see personalism. It's hard to see the personal aspect of creation and destruction. Because usually in creation and destruction, we are actually seeing the act. We are not seeing the actor. Right? We are seeing, okay, something is getting created. Because imagine you decide to build a house. Then everyone will see the house going up. Right? They'll first see the ground has been cleared. Somebody digs into the bottom of the ground and then the house comes up. They may not necessarily see you, who is paying, who is architecting, maybe not architecting, but paying and giving the general direction of how the house should be built. Right? So, in watching the Janmado, in watching the creation and the destruction, we generally look at the act, then the actor. And we can see this practically in today's world. We see in United States right now there is great chaos. Civil war, some people are saying the civil war is imminent in United States. The elections are going on and, elections have completed and the transfer of power is going on. And in this, a lot of people are, rampaging into the Washington Capitol with guns blazing and with great anger. And so when we see this aspect, we can observe that how sometimes when an act is taking place, we are not necessarily sure how it began. So now, the investigating agency are trying to figure out how did this whole thing start? How did this, this hysteria start in United States? Now, they're not able to exactly pinpoint where, but they can understand that there is hysteria. And in this hysteria, they are able to say, okay, these people are dangerous, these people are okay. So what actually happens is when we are dealing with the material world, when an action is taking place, the energy becomes prominent. And we lose track of how something started. And this is the interesting thing of the material world, that because we are watching the energy so much, right, we become impersonal. And one may wonder, why is it that Krishna has built this in this way? Why is it this energy is so prominent and beautiful? So first, energy is represented as woman. Right? Maya, she is Durga Devi. And it is explained that a woman attracts. Right? So a woman attracts everybody. Child is attracted by a woman because he thinks, oh, mother. Okay? Man is attracted by a woman, he's thinking lover. Other women are attracted by women thinking, oh, beautiful person. So, there's attraction all around, right? And so what happens is, we are watching the energy, and we are getting distracted from the main thing. We see this play out in, I think it's, where's churning of the ocean? Canto 6? Canto 6 or Canto 8? 8, right? 8. The churning of the ocean, where Mohini Rupa comes to give nectar, to distribute nectar equally. So that's Mohini Rupa, right? Krishna comes in the form of Mohini Rupa to say that I will distribute the nectar equally. Now the demigods were getting 2 nectars. They were getting 2 nectars. They were getting the nectar of Krishna in the Mohini Rupa, and they were getting the actual nectar. 2 nectars. Whereas the demons were only getting 1 nectar. They were getting the nectar of watching the beautiful form of Krishna. So they only got 1 nectar. And so what happens is, when you get so absorbed in 1 nectar, you lose track of the other nectar. Right? So this becomes a form of Maya. And this form of Maya becomes so prominent in this material world that for all intents and purposes, we lose complete track of who the actual actor is. That it is Krishna who is the actual actor, who is actually, functioning in this, who's making Maya run. So there is this, in Brahma Samhita, Shrishti Sthiti Pranaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichhana Rupam Api Yasya Chacheshtatesha. Ichhana Rupa means whatever Lord Vishnu is thinking, right? Durga Devi will enact. And it is explained that this is a form of Shambhu. In this form of Shambhu, Durga Devi becomes his consort. So Shambhu enters Pradhan. So Pradhan is, if you see here, it was very nicely explained that Pradhan is one form of Maya, right? The material, we will read it again. Bhakti Siddhant Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Goswami's thing. Material nature as the material cause is known as Pradhan. Okay, that's the material cause, Pradhan. And as the efficient cause is known as Maya. Right? So there is the material cause, Pradhana, Shambhu, Krishna in the form of Shambhu enters that. And then that becomes the father and mother, the mix. And then mode of ignorance, Mahat comes out. Built with Ahankar and a mode of ignorance, right? And it is actually explained that Mahat in its most inert state is actually has quite a lot of goodness in it. In its inert state, there's quite a lot of goodness in it. But then when it starts enacting, it gets a lot of ignorance. So it is the ignorance portion of Mahat that actually creates Ahankar, and then that's how the whole what is it called Vyasti and all of those energies actually start forming. So here it's very nicely being explained that Krishna, although the primary actor, the way we see the material nature enact, we lose track of who's the primary actor. We can very easily lose track. And we will see this even in our dealings in the temple. Sometimes we may feel when we wake up in the morning, oh, today the energy of the temple is very nice. Sometimes you may feel. Sometimes you are feeling, oh, today the energy is not so good. Actually, it's not the energy of the temple. The energy of the temple is spiritual. Right? It's spiritual. This is Vrindavan, this is the spiritual world. It is us, in dealing with this energy, in seeing what aspect of this energy, that interaction with the energy is what is prominent. But we lose that. We lose that track. We are like, oh, okay, it's not actually about my energy and my dealing with the temple. No, the temple didn't inspire me. You see? We get that. We become impersonal in these dealings. You will generally see if somebody is complaining, they become impersonal. There's an impersonal aspect to complaining. Right? And then, of course, when it comes to blaming, we become highly personal. So, complaining is impersonal and blaming is personal. Right? So, we try to espouse that. So, what we should try and do is we should change this attitude. Instead of complaining, we should be humble. And the aspect of humility is trying to turn the complaining principle. Right now we are complaining that, oh, okay, I'm not getting the energy. Instead we become humble and say, okay, whatever is there, it's quite magnanimous. And then instead of blaming, we become glorifying. So kirtan. So that's how we change these two attitudes. Right? We are flipping these two attitudes. Because by doing kirtan, we are becoming personal. We are glorifying Krishna. We are saying, Radha Gopinath is giving everything. So that becomes from blaming to kirtan. And then from complaining, we become humble. That, okay, This is what the situation is. And in this situation also something glorious can occur. We see Arjuna entering the battlefield of Mahabharata, seeing the situation and saying, this situation is not palatable. And Krishna is telling him, no, yad karoshi, yad ashnashi, whatever the situation, stay humble. In that shloka, yad karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhosi, dadasi, yad. The key principle there is that one should be humble. That whatever you have, whatever you're doing, stay humble, offer it to Krishna, and go deal with the world. Tad kurushva madarpanam. Please surrender it to me. That is the humility, right? And in dealing with the material world, we need to start seeing the personal aspects of Krishna. Because if we don't, we create a barrier in our own acceptance of this material nature. The whole point of having Purusha avatars and everything is to show Krishna's direct interference. The word that is used here is interference. Interfere means to get in, to go in between. So it's actually Krishna who's in between this whole material manifestation. So whether we see this, within United States, all of this, turmoil that is occurring, and over the world, when we see this effect of this virus, right? One may consider that, okay, this is a different flavor of influenza, COVID, right? But it has really, captured our imagination. And this is the beauty of information, right? Most people, the people who have got sick is a small percentage. We are talking maybe 1%, 2% people who have, I'm sorry, not sick, I apologize, who passed away from this disease. It's a small slither of the population, just 1% or 2%. But what happens is information is so powerful that we have got this idea that I may die. Right? And so when the moment we get this information of, because of this, this viral act, I may die. What is our reaction? That we must protect ourselves. What is Parikshit Maharaj's reaction? You see the difference in reaction? Because he is able to see the personal dealings of Krishna. And how can he see that? Because he saw Krishna in his own womb. When he was in the womb of his mother. Right? In the darkest place. It is explained in the example in Bhagavad Gita that, there is, in ignorance you have three. Right? You have goodness, passion and ignorance. The smoke, fire, the fog, and then the womb. So womb is considered real ignorance, that's the darkest ignorance. In that most ignorant state, Tamishra, in the most ignorant state, Parikshit was able to see Krishna. So he was from his birth onwards, he was able to see Krishna in everything. So when he got cursed to die, when he got cursed that you are going to die in 7 days, categorically being told, you will die in 7 days. He's thinking, okay, let me understand this whole material world and let me go back to Krishna. Let me find that person I have been seeing since my birth. I've been observing him, I've been seeing him. I want to know everything about him. So this is Parikshit's drive. Whereas now, right now when we are seeing the drive of the material world, their principle is, okay, let's get a vaccine. Why get a vaccine? So we can go back to normal. What is normal? Engaging in the material world. Exploiting the material nature. Right? So this inference from observing the energy, the act, we must move to the actor. We must step away. Okay, a beautiful house is being built. Who built the house? Who is this? Who is the architect? Who is the person who's paying for all of this? See, that is the thought. Usually when we go traveling, right, you will see that people will say, okay, this is a beautiful building, this is very nice, this was built by such and such person. But we never pay attention to who built it. Very rarely. Unless someone is a scholar, they will not pay attention. Most of us are like, oh, this building, okay, let's take a selfie, and then we move on. Right, so that is our nature. Now the amazing thing is in all of these tour guides, right? When it comes to showing the houses and all, they'll keep, the tour guide will say, okay, this is this person built it. That same tour guide, when he will take you to a waterfall, or to a beautiful mountain, or to a beautiful place, he will say, okay, this This is the beauty of this place, of this city. At that point, he doesn't ascribe it to any architect. You will notice this. Right? I was traveling and I was to always notice this idea, and I was asking that guy, the tour guide, so who do you think made this? And then he was like, what do you mean? I said, who do you think made all this? I said, so you know the architect who made this? Who made this? And so he was like, what do you mean who made this? I said, nothing, don't worry. I said, don't worry. It's just, I was just having fun with him. But the idea being that what happens is when they're espousing, oh, this architect, this civilization, this empire, right? So when it comes to small buildings, they are able to point and tell. It's like, okay, now this building was, made in a mountain, or this thing was made in this. Who made all of this? Who is the architect? Who is the designer here? At that point, we lose track because we get so enveloped with Maya. Like Maya is really big, right? And this will happen to all of us in our day-to-day life. Sometimes when we are going and we see something, something magnificent, we're like, oh, how amazing is this? Very rarely do we connect that amazement to Krishna. There's this nice story. I like the story a lot because of the way the devotee said it. I forgot the name of the devotee who said this. He was explaining that one time he was, I think he was traveling with Srila Prabhupada, and he was carrying Srila Prabhupada's suitcase. And he was going in the airport and he was going ahead, and Srila Prabhupada was behind. So he was going ahead to make sure that any checks and all are taken care of. And then he was explaining that as he was going ahead, a young boy, with great energy, he said that suddenly he saw this, I think it was maybe somewhere in Europe, I think maybe France, I don't remember to be honest, that this air hostess was passing by, and then this devotee remembers, and he said, I had never seen such a beautiful air hostess in my life. So he's telling, okay. So he was saying that, he was saying at that time I just started gonking, like, I'm looking at her. So he was saying that it was very prominent what I was doing, very prominent. He was saying it was so prominent that my head moved like this, like in a very prominent manner. So he was saying as my head moved, then I saw Srila Prabhupada coming from this side. He was saying at that point I felt so sad and embarrassed that I could not be a good devotee. So Srila Prabhupada comes to him and says, beautiful, isn't she? So Srila Prabhupada tells him this. Then he's like, huh? He says, imagine how beautiful Krishna is. You see how Srila Prabhupada turns that? That same situation which is embarrassing, which is not spiritually sound, all aspects that you can possibly think of, right? Srila Prabhupada takes that same incident and makes this fellow's vision spiritual. He says, see, she's so beautiful. He says, imagine how beautiful Krishna is, the one who's made her. So this is devotee. You see, devotee knows who made all of this. Devotee knows. So Srila Prabhupada knows, yes, extremely beautiful person. Krishna made this. Name of architect, Krishna. Empire, Vrindavan. The Vrindavan Empire. Right? So this is Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was able to see this. Now, the inspiration from this shloka is that we have to be able to see Krishna in every aspect. And the Purusharthas the Canto 2 lays the foundation that in everything that we are now going to read, in Bhagavatam or in any of the Shastras, we should see that it has been ordained and defined by Krishna. That Krishna is the architect of all of this. That is why when we read, this is the book written by Madhvacharya. Mahabharat Tatparya Nirnaya. So what that means is that this is a conclusion. This Nirnaya means to conclude. Like this is the conclusion of Mahabharata. In this, Madhvacharya actually writes, after, and he, in Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, he talks about Ramayana and Mahabharata. And what he does is in every act, he's showcasing that Krishna was actually the architect of all of this. He's proving this point, that it was actually Krishna. It is actually Krishna. It's actually Krishna. He's presenting in every single step, he's saying, Krishna wanted this, Krishna wanted this, Krishna wanted this. So he is so much easy pointing back to Krishna that eventually once you finish reading that book, you realize that, okay, so therefore Krishna is the architect of everything. And so therefore Krishna is the supreme. So that becomes his conclusion of Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya. I have read only parts of the book. I have not read full parts. I have read only specific parts of the book. But you will see always that he concludes to this point. That, okay, it was actually Krishna who's the architect. And so, the whole purpose of Sukadev Goswami presenting all of this is to say, now that you have understood that Krishna is actually the architect of all of this, now observe the dealings. And in this, we will start seeing sometimes, devotee may be in peril. Not sometimes, most of the times the devotee is in peril. Devotee is in peril. Somebody else may be in a good situation. Most of the times this situation occurs. Right? The good guy is always in peril. Right? And so in all of these we see, okay, this is how Krishna wants it. Right? And so one thing is, usually, I use the word usually, I'm not saying this always happens, that usually when we see somebody is in peril, usually we are thinking, person got his karma. Good, you deserve it. That day you shouted at me. Good, you are in peril now. Usually our mindset is like that, right? But actually the inspiration here is to say, no, one has to see that, okay, this is what Krishna wants. Like, this is what Krishna wants. And so because Krishna wants this, now we have to maneuver this. We have to maneuver this situation. And so that is the inspiration. And that's a good inspiration to have. So yeah, I will end here. This is a very simple translation, but Srila Prabhupada has very amazingly expounded on this idea that we have to start seeing Krishna as the primary cause of all this movement. Right? And it's like I like the example here of nipples in the neck of a goat. Reason I find this funny is that I have a newborn kid, she's just 2 months old. And so sometimes when I'm holding her, so she, a child is always in ignorance, right? The newborn child is in ignorance. She doesn't know what's going on. And even my son, Mukunda, used to be like that. So if you're, sometimes if a hand comes near the mouth, she starts, suckling. Or the boy, even Mukunda, my son, he starts suckling. Right? So child is like that. The child is just suckling. Child doesn't understand that there's no milk that's going to come from the hand. No milk is going to come from the hand. The child will, you'll see sometimes, they give kids those pacifiers. So they'll put the pacifier on the child. Why? It says, oh, the child just keeps suckling. Child is not understanding, I'm not getting pleasure from this. I'm not getting any nutrition. Right? So this example of, the nipples in the neck of a goat remind me of that. That yes, we are all like this. We are all suckling on the material nature, thinking that somewhere here I'll get the milk. There's no milk here. Only poison. So yeah, we will end here. Devotees want to share something? No? Alright. Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Sorry about the mask. I was doing kirtan, suddenly I remember, I'm not wearing a mask. I got worried.